Okay, Corey, nice
Yes.
to meet you.
Oh, no worries.
First of all, I read in another interview that you're fond of reading history books.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, what book are you reading right now?
I'm not actually. I didn't bring any with me. I'm so terrible. I've actually been working on my own book. I've been working on book 2. So I've been doing that a lot. But when I don't have books out with me, I tend to kind of balance that with watching documentaries and whatnot. I watch the History Channel and the Discovery Channel all the time and whatnot, and there's some fascinating specials that are out there that you pick up on stuff and you're like, oh, and you store that away, and then all of a sudden it comes back later and you're like, oh, I can put that in my book, you know? So it's pretty cool.
Which era do you particularly take a lot of inspiration from?
There's different, there's several different eras that I enjoy. Probably, for the most part, the 1800s, for some reason, has a draw to me, especially in my own history. Between Andrew Jackson and Abraham Lincoln, I mean, there was such a diverse history there, really, and then, it was crazy to kind of see all of the quote-unquote heroes come out of the Civil War, and then several of those people, several of those generals eventually became, president of the United States and whatnot, and it's, I mean, it's fascinating to see how, these events have kind of shaped my country, for the most part.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing if you look, maybe as it is now, that these people were there at that time?
I think it's a good thing, because I mean, it puts things in perspective, I mean, 200 years ago, there was a natural racism that existed, 100 years ago, slowly but surely that racism was starting to kind of die out, and it's not that there wasn't still violence against people who, you weren't the same color, but, and now, in the last 10, 20 years, you're really starting to see that phase out. And I believe that truly, and for me, that's important because, I mean, I grew up surrounded by people who had these ideas, and I never subscribed to it. I never understood racism and prejudice and stuff like that. To me, it made more sense to get to know somebody before you judge them or do anything like that, instead of just judging them on the color of their skin or their sexual preference, or I mean, it was ridiculous. So I think we're starting to see that kind of phase out, and you only really see it with the older generation now.
Yeah, because do you think when looking, especially maybe at that period, that there's a saying that if you want to know your present or future, then you have to look at your history?
Definitely.
What lessons maybe in America today, maybe if you talk about your country, could be learned from that period, maybe?
I think, especially in the way, the kind of the dire straits that my country's in right now, I think if we took a look back and looked at how, some of the other administrations handled it. I mean, you take Franklin D. Roosevelt, creating, the most sweeping, federal, issues, or I mean, just creating the most sweeping federal construction bills, basically, the CCC and whatnot, to kind of, just, to create, I mean, the highway system came out of that, the Hoover Dam came out of that, and actually the really protecting the natural resources that we have. These things are very important, and I think instead of trying to force different issues on both sides, I think if they just kind of took a look and said, there's a lot we could do. There's a lot of people we could put to work, right away if we kind of did that again. This sweeping federal beautification, that could help. I think it makes more sense than trying to, fight over taxes and things like that.